Hey everyone, for my project, I've created a digital ABC literacy book for my ENL students, which is English as a New Language learners, titled My ABC Book, a Digital Literacy Project for ENL Students. So it incorporates learning theories and the UDL design to enhance early language development. The purpose of this project was to build foundational literacy skills in ENL early childhood learners using a digital ABC book. So my target audience will be using this resource is kindergarten ENL students. Here are the learning outcomes for the ABC book. So students will be able to recognize and name all uppercase and lowercase letters of the alphabet, identify letter sounds and initial sounds of familiar words and match them with corresponding letters, use new language and vocabulary words in context for oral language expression. So this is going to happen through identifying and naming technology features within the book, as well as pictures of objects that are in the book. And the last one is to demonstrate increased ability to speak in complete sentences when describing images and objects within the book. Here are the kindergarten standards aligned with my ABC book. So these are all ELA standards of reading and foundational skills such as speaking and listening. I'm not going to go through them all, but they align with the learning outcomes that I just presented, and they will be within the book activities and assignments that you will see shortly. So I align the assignments to these learning standards and my outcomes. Since my book is more tailored to ENL learners, obviously any student in early childhood can use this book, but I specifically created it with ENL learners in mind. I decided to add the TESOL standards here as well. So the TESOL, if you're not familiar with it, is short for Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. So these are just standards and guidelines for teachers and for students on language acquisition and language learning. And then I included two of the language TESOL standards here. So the first one is language for social and instructional purposes, where students are communicating in a social school setting. And then the second is language of language arts. So students are communicating ideas and concepts necessary for academic content area and success of ELA. So you will see later my ABC book really teaches these foundational phonics skills. It's very interactive and allows for a lot of speaking and listening activities, and it's really helpful for students to build this vocabulary and this English language. When creating this project, there were a bunch of theoretical frameworks that I considered and incorporated. So here are just a few. So the first is constructivism, where students actively construct knowledge through interactions. So this is going to be present in my book when students are completing open-ended tasks such as drawing, writing, photographing, and basically they have choice of which modalities they want to use, as well as video recording or voice recordings. They have the option of using, and this is going to help them construct and personalize their ABC books. The next learning theory is connectivism. So, when creating a digital book, this goes along with connectivism because it is a digital media and a digital form. So within the book, I embedded YouTube links and many other interactive elements, which I will get into detail later. But these elements also promote digital fluency and literacy habits for students' futures. And another theory that I applied in my design was experiential learning, where students learn by doing. So, again, students will be actively participating and creating this book through drawing, speaking, and listening activities. And the learning is really embedded in a meaningful way. It's very tactile and very visually helpful. And the last framework that I had used and really had a huge impact on the final design of my project is UDL. which is Universal Design for Learning. So this is a framework that supports diverse learners through multimodal content and flexible expression. So it does have three main principles, and I really tried to hit on each of these while I was creating my book. So the first is multiple means of representation. So there are videos, images, voiceovers, icons, symbols that represent each letter and sound that are represented in the book. The next is multiple means of action and expression. So there's drawing, writing, typing, audio and video recording opportunities, photo uploading, and camera features, and a variety of templates that the students can choose. And there are many ways for them to show what they know regarding the letter recognition and the content. And the last one is multiple means of engagement. So students have activity choice, which I will show. So there's multiple opportunities for activity choice, for personalization, and the book itself is just visually playful. It's very visually appealing and age appropriate. All right, so for this project, I wanted to choose a digital tool that my students would already be familiar with and that could be easily integrated into my classroom. Therefore, since every student in my school has an iPad, I developed my ABC book on Keynote, which would be the most accessible to not only my students, but also to their parents at home to help them with their skills as well, because they take their iPads back and forth to school. So I thought this was really great for my students to learn. And from the beginning of the year, we use Keynote all the time, so they're very, very familiar with it. And some design considerations that I took into account was having a very large font, a very clear structured navigation of the book where it wasn't too confusing. It follows a really progressive and scaffolded order, not only for the technology tools, but the actual academic content. There are no flashing or distracting content available within the book, and there are a ton of interactive features that are able to sustain student engagement and motivation. All right, so here are some of the activities that I incorporated into my book. So I created 5 activities for each letter sound recognition umbrella. So the tools that I have embedded within the book include videos, voice recordings, drawing tools, camera tools, and a lot of other things that I will go over right now. So the first activity is Hear It, Say It. So this is an activity where the students visually see the letter, and there's a YouTube video to go along with it that they could watch. And then once they see the letter and watch the YouTube video, they have the chance to hear it. So I voice recorded myself saying the letter, the sound, and the picture keyword that goes along with the letter. And then the students have the opportunity to record their own voice. They could do a voice recording or a video recording of themselves repeating and saying the letter, sound, and picture keyword. The next activity is the picture circling for letter identification. So I also embedded my voice here, reading the directions, and I also have written text of the directions. I also reiterated the letter sound, so the students, in case they forgot or needed a reminder, or needed that extra support, they know the letter sound that is embedded into the voice recording, as well as the name of the letter. So for this, the students have to select the drawing tool on the Keynote, and then they have to circle all of the pictures that begin with that letter sound. The next tool is drawing and photographing items that match letter sounds. So again, I embedded the voice recording of the directions. And then here, the students have to either draw or take a picture of objects that begin with the appropriate letter sound. Now, here's an example that I have of student choice. So the students are able to draw. They can choose between the 2 activities. They can either draw or take a picture, or if you have early finishers or students who need a little bit of enrichment, they can do both. And then within each activity, they don't necessarily have to draw two things or take a picture of two things. They can, if they're only able to draw one thing or take a picture of one thing, that is perfectly fine too. So here is an example of some student choice and some differentiation here for identifying objects that have the same letter sounds. And then the last thing activity that I did was letter writing practice. So here's another differentiation activity as well. So here the students will take that drawing tool that they've been using and they will practice writing the letters. Now, on the top here, there's an uppercase A and a lowercase a, and that is actually a little video. If you press it, in Keynote, it will show you how to trace the uppercase and the lowercase a. So in case the students needed that reinforcement, they could watch that clip and it continuously does it. So the students can watch and copy that. I also embedded my voice here as well, just for further directions and to tell the students what they're doing. And then as far as the actual writing, the students can practice just the uppercase. If that's all they're able to do at that time, they can only practice the lowercase or they can practice both. So again, this is another opportunity for the students to have differentiated instruction by means of representation. And then it's also depending on if they're developmentally ready to do both or only one or the other. Here are some assessments that I created to go along with the ABC book. So on the left is a student rubric, which I really love to use in my classroom. It just gives the students the opportunity to really assess themselves, kind of to keep track of where they are in the learning process and what they are mastering and what they still need help in, as well as just reflect on their overall performance. And then on the right, I have the teacher rubric, which I created obviously as a summative assessment for teachers, just to see if the students are not only understanding the academic content, but are able to express the language and use those technology tools appropriately. And the completion of the book would serve as a culminating assessment, a summative assessment as to if the students are able to master all of their letters and sounds. And then it's also a good resource for a teacher, because then the students can send their books, completed books, or wherever they are at in the process of personalizing their books, they can send it directly to the teacher, and the teacher can see exactly what the student has mastered and what the student still needs help in by listening to those recordings and to seeing what pictures and what drawings they have done and what writings they have done within the book. All right, so I think that my goal here for creating a student-centered, multimodal, culturally inclusive early childhood literacy tool was met through this project. So one next step I would take is to just continue modifying and enhancing the book based on the success of the students and how they are doing with it and how they are navigating and completing it. Another thing I would love to do is expand the book by adding some bilingual features, maybe some bilingual voice recordings or text, specifically in Spanish and Creole, because those are the two languages that my school students really speak. That's the highest population of the second language. Another thing I would love to do is expand the literacy component and create maybe additional books or maybe add on to this book by creating a sight word book or encoding and decoding CVC words, just to continue with those early literacy skills in a fun and interactive way. And the last one would be to create a book to share with families and the school community. So a lot of times parents are also learning and struggling with the English language, and they can't help their child because they don't know the language themselves. So since the students do bring their iPads back and forth to school, creating maybe a digital parent resource that could be shared with them would be beneficial to not only their children, but the school community as a whole. To conclude, I really loved making this project. It was a lot of fun for me. mostly because I feel like it can be used into my classroom immediately and it will absolutely benefit my students. So, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all enjoyed. Some next steps that I was considering going forward to kind of further develop this project was